Oh, I sucked in right as I did it, like choked me. All right, so here we are, still in Ephesians chapter 5. We're still looking at the idea of marriage, verses 22 through 33, the one flesh, one of the most famous texts about love is found in John 13, 34 and 35. And it's where Jesus tells us that we're to love one another. In fact, he says, "A new command I give you, love one another. Just as I have loved you, you are also to love one another. By this will everyone know that you are my disciples, if you love one another." As I was thinking about that, I think that the word love is interesting because everybody uses it. Everybody thinks they understand it. Everybody thinks they get it. But it reminds me of a chocolate chip recipe that my family loves to make. This chocolate chip recipe has all sorts of things. But if you put one ingredient in there that's different than normal, it changes everything. It's the same for homemade ice cream. There's homemade ice cream and you have all of the ingredients and you can put all of these ingredients in, but if you make it with Mexican vanilla, it changes everything. I'll never forget one time we had gone on a trip to see my aunt and uncle, and they lived in Tucson, and we had gone down into Mexico. And while we were in Mexico, we had picked up some vanilla. It's this fantastic vanilla. And we came home and we made those cookies. And because of the superiority of the ingredient that was vanilla in those cookies, it changed everything. I would have never thought that vanilla would change the cookie recipe. It was the same with the homemade ice cream. Later that summer, we had some homemade ice cream with this vanilla from Mexico. It was so good. Everything was different. And I realized, maybe a lot of people have vanilla in their chocolate chip cookies, or maybe a lot of people have vanilla in their homemade ice cream recipe. But if it wasn't this kind of vanilla, maybe it wouldn't be as good. Another thing in my family, we hold biscuits and gravy with high regard, and there's certain kinds of biscuits that we think are better than everything else for certain recipes. Whether that be canned biscuits and gravy, and we have a certain recipe with that, or whether that be pigs in a blanket, we believe that the Pillsbury canned biscuits were better than anything else. And then all of a sudden they quit making them. My family's been in mourning ever since. We struggle with that idea. Why am I talking about these ingredients? It could be because I'm hungry. But the reality is because I believe that these things change the way the recipe lays out. And though everybody could say biscuits, it's not the same if it doesn't have the right kind of biscuits or the superior quality of biscuits. Though everybody's familiar with vanilla ice cream, it's not the same if it doesn't have that highest quality of vanilla. And it's the same with love. Everybody knows the term love and thinks they understand what it means. But rather than just speculating, it's good for us to look and say, how does God define love? So I want you to hear this. Love is patient. Love is kind. Love does not envy. It is not boastful. It is not arrogant. It is not rude. It is not self-seeking. It is not irritable. It does not keep a record of wrongs. Love finds no joy in unrighteousness, but rejoices in the truth. It bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never ends. Verse 13 goes on, now these three remain, faith, hope, and love, but the greatest of these is love. I've heard that passage hundreds of times, but I'll tell you when it really meant the most to me is when someone said, could my wife take the word love and substitute my name into that writing? Here's what it would say then. John is patient. John is kind. John does not envy. He is not boastful or arrogant. He is not rude. He is not self-seeking. He is not irritable. John does not keep a record of wrongs. Love finds no joy, or John finds no joy in unrighteousness, but rejoices in the truth. He bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. John's love never ends. When I read it that way, I realize that though I declare my love to many people and to many things, I'm not yet to the quality that Christ wants me to be in loving. Yeah, I may fit into a recipe and I may be the love that someone gets, but I can be better and stronger and more reflective of His love. So when you hear the words, I love you, and it's self-seeking, that's not love at all. When you hear the words, I love you, and they come from someone who's continually irritable towards you, that's not what God intends for love. And when you love and are holding records of wrongs, you're irritable and hateful and resentful, you're not the ingredient that God intended for you to be. So, church, let us love how God called for us to love. Let us be the ingredient that changes every recipe.